So we have some big developments in our markets and financial system over the weekend. And as regard to Credit Suisse, Bitcoin, and also too, we're going to talk a little bit about Peter Schiff. I want to share some thoughts, get yours as well, and let's just jump right in. So first, this is my favorite scene from A Wolf on Wall Street. I know it's a popular movie; it's funny, but the basic idea is they were taping cash to associate of theirs, and in order to sneak cash, move it around the world essentially. And what better way to do it than tape it to your body? And we're starting with this is because essentially UBS is buying Credit Suisse. And Credit Suisse, if you don't know, they are the bank of, I guess, taping cash to your body to move money around the world and essentially hide it, tax evasion, this kind of thing. Credit Suisse is the bank of scandals, the criminals, and this sort of stuff. Now, it was interesting because over the weekend, there was a lot of interesting reporting on it. It was like kind of live reporting, like watching a football game. And UBS offered to buy Credit Suisse at $1 billion, which is, obviously a lot of money. However, we are talking about a bank here and a very large bank. And so, in fact, Credit Suisse actually pushed back, said, you know what, $1 billion is no good. And it was really fun to watch the story as it developed. Obviously, we're not on the inside, but we're getting leaks coming out of the meetings because we're talking about so much money here. Ultimately, though, the UBS is indeed going to buy it. And as of now, they're saying UBS agrees to buy Credit Suisse for more than $3 billion. They're going to get different numbers on this. This one's reading $3.25 billion. But frankly, it's a lot of money. However, it is at a discount. And my understanding is people who have equity in Credit Suisse is you're probably going to get wiped out. And also, too, if you work for Credit Suisse, there's a high chance that you're going to lose your job. This is just unfortunate. I don't mean to say any, mean ways in that. I'm just saying this is just what it is. The other thing is too, is you take a look at, say, the stock performance, you can see, Credit Suisse has been going down. This was all facilitated, my understanding, by the Swiss government, which is a bit, I'll say concerning is a good way to say it. You could look at it a couple ways. The one would be, it's concerning that they're moving so quickly on a weekend. This is when all these negotiations are happening. Also too, they're circumventing the shareholders of Credit Suisse. So basically, the government's just like trying to work out this deal to get it done quickly that UBS could buy Credit Suisse. So UBS is in fact bigger than Credit Suisse in terms they have like nearly $1 trillion in assets. The Credit Suisse, when I was reading through this, is like, here it's the chart saying like maybe they have maybe $600 billion in assets kind of thing, but it's hard to say. Honestly, that's what I was reading. I was like, so I'll show you the chart, but I'm just wanting to preface it with talking about Credit Suisse. Who knows? I remember too, they were involved with the Archegos blow up. That was, I think it was like 2 years ago already. That was the fund manager that like over leveraged to the hilt and got involved with that. And Credit Suisse took a big loss. I think a lot of banks took big losses on that. And you can take a look at this, for example. Archegos is one. There's a lot of things that Credit Suisse has done wrong. But UBS, their net income is way up here, whereas Credit Suisse net income is way down there. So like, I guess it's kind of a balancing out. If you look at this chart where UBS is getting $8 billion in net income and this one's like negative $8 billion, it looks like it's kind of a balancing. But like I said, I think that unfortunately, a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. So they're saying here, Credit Suisse has 50,000 employees. So 16,000 of them are in Switzerland. And the numbers that I've read is anywhere, I'll just say up to half the employees may lose their jobs. It'll be something like that. So maybe 20% to 50%. And I didn't realize though, they're in the Raleigh, North Carolina. So we were just North Carolina. I don't remember seeing a Credit Suisse office building there, but if I had to bet, that they're really going to trim on the foreign staff. But, who knows? I can't tell you. India and Poland, they have people as well. New York and London, Singapore, they're all over the place. And then UBS has 74,000 employees globally. And this is also too on top of we have, the banking industry firing as a whole. This has been not just Credit Suisse, but like, Goldman, JP Morgan, these kind of things. A lot of the mortgage jobs have been gone. And I remember we were talking about this before. I want to say it was about 3 or 4 months ago when Credit Suisse was offering like cash bonuses to executives to stay on board. And I remember posing a question to you guys, like, would you take the bonus or not? And the thing that was kind of funny about it at the time is that they were paying like the bonuses up front because frankly, guys, the writing was on the wall in regard to Credit Suisse that this ship was thinking it was probably time to get out. So there a lot of movement around because especially too if you work there, you kind of know what the internals of the company is. So it's like what 17 billion in this is their special bonds may be wiped out. It says right here the deal will entirely wipe out 17 billion special class Credit Suisse bonds known as AT1s. This reminds me too of sort of like just brought up the phrase of bank run. But the world has a history of this. And this feels like, if you had to ask me, this is like a big event like 2008. You could even talk about the state of Great Depression in the 1930s. And I'll get to the Peter Schiff in a second, but I want you to say, like, this is a major event going on in world history right now. Now, whether or not it ends up being like this massive depression, like people on the internet will say, who knows? That's what I would say. Is who knows? I don't want to spread fear or anything like that. But I will say, inform yourself with what happened in the past. I will say, though, with each sort of crisis that we've experienced as a world collective, we should learn from our past mistakes. One would think, right? It's crazy too because, we're talking about the government getting involved in Switzerland with private businesses, but, this was a report that came out. You can see here, Warren Buffett has been talking to Biden White House about a possible investment in regional banks. And, for real. So basically, like, even the president of the United States is like, going to a private business person investor and saying like, hey, you got any money to like help us out with our system, or it's all going to collapse? And this is like kind of what we're coming down to. And part of the message I'm going to talk to you guys as well is yes, it is a real thing. There is corruption in our banking system, 100%. I don't disagree at all. I lived through 2009, guys. I really know. I lived through dot-com bubble. I've talking about history. This stuff happens because people are greedy. That's the way that it is. Is it good or bad? That's up to you to decide. But people are greedy, and it's crazy that again, we're trying to convince Warren Buffett to even jump in, and he's going to do what's best for him. The same way UBS is like, trying to basically lowball Credit Suisse with the $1 billion offer, and ultimately they settled for $3 billion. Now, you can go back in history if you want and read this stuff, but this is the Glass-Steagall Act, and the reason why I bring this up is that every time there's some sort of major event, we look to ourselves and say, okay, let's try to clean this stuff up. And like, for example, Glass-Steagall, they come up with the FDIC, which is basically insurance on your bank accounts. And, we're probably going to have a series of new changes coming with sort of what we're seeing right now. And I want to talk about these, be it the digital dollar or be it the Fed Now thing, which we just talked about yesterday. We're going to probably be talking about this for the next couple of months or years, really, because essentially, yes, the financial system is changing. The way money moves around the world is changing as well, because now we're competing with different technologies, right? Everyone's trying to be the kind of premier payment sort of company / system that we use. And I'm bringing up Glass-Steagall or Steagall like your Glass-Steagall because this is interesting. White House pressed to expand deposit guarantee to steady banks. The basic gist of it is that now there's talk in DC of like, should we raise the FDIC amount? So at the moment, the threshold or limit, as you should say, I think it's $250,000 per account. This is how much you're insured by the FDIC. And there was some talk that maybe, for say small businesses, of these kind of things, maybe we should raise that to like, $1 million, $2 million, whatever, to make sure that these people can make payroll. Because I do think this is something that you need in any sort of financial system, is you need confidence. Confidence is basically, I give my money to said bank, and they, I expect them to have it when I go back to the bank to get it, right? I expect them to have it. That's like confidence. Because the way the banking system works, again, is that lots of people give the bank their money, but the bank doesn't actually physically have your money. They're essentially lending it out to lots of other people and keeping the money cycle going, right? And the bank makes money off, collecting interest on said loans and these kind of things, like, for example. And so at any given moment, let's say if like you set the laws at deposit, that they only have to have, say, for example, 5% of all deposits in, that means like 95% of the money is just flying around the place. Who knows where it is? And you could certainly set laws at making it higher, saying, okay, banks have to have, say, 50% deposits on cash, like this kind of things. Or, for example, Binance always likes to say, talk about crypto now, I think they like to say that they have a 1-to-1, which I don't necessarily believe that. And for those of you who have access to Binance books, please let me know, right in the comments, what do you think Binance actually has in terms of their actual cash? Or you can talk about stablecoin, which we talked about yesterday with Jerome Powell saying, a lot of these stable coins are essentially backed by U.S. reserves. So the basic gist of it, again, is if how banks work, how any of these financial systems work. You give them your money, you trust them, and the idea is, are they going to give it back? But they too have to make a profit by essentially lending it out and doing any number of things with your money. And so this is sort of why the whole system is built on trust. Now, one thing that's really interesting is that if you look at the big banks, so it says half of the industry's big banks, those are the big ones, have 31.4 trillion. So that would be like your JP Morgan, Bank of America, these kind of things. So essentially the half of our system, and this is the U.S., is but the big banks. That means the other half is be like the smaller banks, right? So some of the regional banks is like 10 billion to 100 billion in assets. And then you have, that's 99 of those. Those are the regional banks. And those are the ones that are in trouble right now, the SVBs, the First Republic, I guess KeyBank is in that round. And then you got 3,500 community banks, which was like, much, much smaller. And it's interesting because the idea then is these smaller banks are kind of worried because they're getting a bunch of outflows of money, because essentially this is just how it is. And I don't disagree with people who are doing this. You see SUV collapse, you're like, crap, where am I going to put my money? Screw these regional banks. I'm just going to put it, in the big banks, JP Morgan and Bank of America, et cetera. Some people ask about credit unions as well. And here's the thing, guys, and this is the thing. You got to do what makes sense for you. I'll just leave it at that. I can't say, hey, everyone, do this bank is absolutely safe, because like if it's not, then you guys get what I'm saying. I don't honestly want to put you in a bad spot when I don't know the in or out of a bank. And this is sort of where they say the YouTubers who were promoting FTX got in trouble, because essentially they were putting their name behind something that was highly risky. But to be really frank, it's talking about a crypto exchange. So yes, if I say, hey, maybe Chase, Bank of America or something like that, those are probably going to be your savers. I'm not going to say that they're not safe, but oftentimes these smaller banks have more benefits, be it better customer service, be it they're going to give you better rates on your savings account, these kind of things. And again, this is sort of where the FDIC comes into play, because then if something's FDIC heard, you can at least say, well, if you put your money in said bank, you know that you're protected up a certain amount, right? And so raising limits certainly has an effect. But the small banks, though, are concerned that the way the legislation is going to be and the way the system is going forward it may wipe out a lot of these smaller banks. There is a possibility. We read this here. It says, a group representing smaller banks said it is important regulators do not pick winners and losers. I completely agree. I want a free market, and I don't necessarily want the government to say this bank wins, this bank loses. Guys, the system's corrupt. I really know. I just want to make sure you understand. I really know. I'm just trying to educate you on this stuff. So this is a representative of the smaller banks saying, if the FDIC decides to provide a limited deposit insurance for some institutions, that's key, even on a limited basis, they cannot discriminate and leave others out, particularly those that have been operating on safe and sound basis, such as the nation's community banks. And that's coming from Al Balser, and she's the Vice President, Independent Community Bankers of America. And I'm with Ann on this one. The way that the system seems to be going, and this is not just banks, there's any number of things where, governments are, preferencing these big, large companies. You could say politicians are as well, because said, big businesses give a bunch of money to said governments and politicians to sort of rig the system in their favor, and it makes it tough for the little bank. Like, for example, some of these little smaller credit unions in your neighborhood, be it then like say university banks or the military banks, these kind of credit unions, I should say. But some of these they run perfectly legit, and one of the big differences is that they're not operating for profit. Fed and 5 central banks announced move to boost dollar funding. And this is coming right after the announcement of the Fed Now thing, the sort of digital dollar, may be coming, sort of what we're talking about. So we got Bank of Canada, Bank of England, Bank of Japan, the European Central Bank, and the Swiss National Bank, right? This is like all of them, the majors. In a statement saying that the action was designed to enhance provision of liquidity via the standing of the U.S. dollar liquidity swap line arrangements. And so basically here, you can improve the swap lines, and it says here, this is the key. The frequency of the 7-day maturity operations from weekly to daily, and put this together with sort of the announcement of the Fed Now. I feel like if they do go digital dollar eventually, or central bank digital currency, it's sort of a way to compete with crypto, because you're talking about how we can move money around quickly. The way our system works now, if you guys know, you either have like the ACH thing or like your Swift stuff, but it's not like immediate. It might take a couple of days for money to move around. So this is sort of where we're going to, and getting all the central banks on board, essentially to support, like say a dollar. That's why I mentioned the digital dollar thing. I think they're going that way. If I had to bet, and also to the sort of faster transactions. And I think, and people mentioned in comments, and I agree. I think say like your MasterCard or your Visa may take like those kind of companies may take big hits. If we have a new sort of digital payment where, it works just as fast as those. So we'll see. I can't predict that kind of stuff, but it looks like many of these central banks are on board with this kind of thing. This is a major announcement. Now, I do get it, guys. Some people, right, they're all about Bitcoin. It's hitting 28,000. So my understanding of Bitcoin is, yes, it's a store of value. If you believe in that stuff, I'm not into it myself, but guys, I understand it. So some people say, oh, Chris, you just don't like it because you don't understand. No, it's not about that. It's just that I'm managing risk, right? Given the choice, I would take dollar over Bitcoin, but I do get that the dollar, there is some corruption there. I'm not stupid. I totally get it. But you have to acknowledge there's corruption with Bitcoin as well. So it's just like, choose your corruption. So anyone who says like, oh, no, there's no corruption in crypto. I mean, come on, this is for real, guys. It just sounds so ludicrous to me. So, for me, it's not worth the risk for me. That's just me. And you got to decide what makes sense for you. So again, Bitcoin's over 28. And you can take a look at the chart of Bitcoin. It is up and down, up and down, up and down. And you can make the case that, maybe people are freaking out regarding Credit Suisse and they're pulling the money out of that and just throwing it into Bitcoin. The bank of criminals is no longer Credit Suisse, is now is Bitcoin. There's a lot of nefarious things that go on with that. The other thing is too, which I want to bring up, the Peter Schiff guy. People have asked me about him in the past, and I want to give you an honest opinion about it. So Peter Schiff, he's not alone. There's a lot of people out there on YouTube, be it Reddit, these kind of people, and basically, this is the whole shtick. They tell you the world is falling apart every single day, right? And if the world is falling apart, and their point of view is like, okay, so how can I profit on it? I want to be real. That's what it is. So if he comes out and tells you, and he's not stupid by any stretch of imagination, he may be right on a lot of things, and you might find him very entertaining, but his whole shtick is the world is falling apart, hence, give me money. That's basically what it is. And if you don't believe me, please, just all you have to do is look up people. It's not that difficult to do. And I understand people don't, but I do, and trying to help you out. I looked it up very quickly, and one of the things that really stood out to me is one, yes, he's predicting crashes and stuff like that, but the big one is that a couple of things. His dad, I guess, was convicted of, he was like this is about Peter Schiff's dad. His name was Erwin Schiff, and he was like convicted to 13 years in federal prison, tax evasion, this kind of stuff. His dad died in prison because he was promoting tax evasion. That was his dad's thing. And evidently they were saying like he helped people, evade $2 billion in taxes. His dad died at 78. And so, Peter is just kind of in that same kind of the realm. Stop making random stuff up. He was a stockbroker at Schiff and Lehman Brothers, what it says. And then the big one too, there's some sort of investigation on his like gold thing. So, all you have to do is look at his website. It's just not that hard to find. And I think for these kind of people, they're very convincing. And unfortunately, this is the reality too. A lot of times these kind of people try to, tell their audiences, oh, don't be a sheep, and sheep is most of the world, and blah, blah, blah. And don't listen to those governments, they're all corrupt. And yes, there's lots of corruption out there. But even the person telling you about that corruption is just a new type of corruption or a different type of corruption. And they're trying to take advantage of people like you as well. That is a reality. I would say there is some truth to that, matrix and sheep stuff, right? There's some truth to it. But unfortunately, though, most people who were like really overuse that language are also trying to benefit from basically scamming you. I don't know how else to say it. So, you read these headlines here. Peter Schiff has a deal with Puerto Rico to liquidate his Euro Pacific Bank. He was some sort of tax evasion stuff, and then he's like basically trying to sell you gold. And I get it, guys. Guys, you don't realize I get it more than you know. I really get it. And the problem is I don't know if you get it. And again, the whole shtick is the world is falling apart. Either buy my classes, buy my gold, buy my umbrella to protect you from said falling world. And then they based a whole channel on telling the world is falling apart. And I'm trying to base my channel or my information I give you guys on just basically education. I became a professor because I wanted to. I could have worked on Wall Street. I could be selling people gold companies and this kind of crap. I could be. I totally could be. Peter Schiff is not a stupid person by any stretch. He's not. He's a smart guy. But, smart people do these kind of things too. They sell you crap. Same way people on Wall Street, they're not stupid by any stretch. They're smart people over there. And so, just understand that there's always something in it for these kind of people, right? So for him, he's selling you gold, be it Andrew Tate, right? This is more of the Peter Schiff for young people. He's just selling you the matrix is going to control you and blah, blah, blah. And now he's in jail. And he's still got his Hustlers University, right? It's everywhere, guys. You could take a look at your Meet Kevin guy. He's like, hey, this is just recently. Hey, I parked next to Taylor Swift's plane at her concert. The guy can die happy. So again, they try to sell you these, big, flashy lifestyles, hang out with Taylor Swift, buy private jets, and then, hey, buy my course. Do you guys understand how this game is played? It's a lot of this stuff is a scam. And I want you to understand is, guys, I could do this stuff, but I don't. I choose not to. This is just a message from a person recently. Hey, Chris, I just want to say I love your work exposing finance fraudsters on YouTube. Good fight. Do you have some kind of tips, tricks, beginners for investors? This kind of stuff, And it's like, you guys don't realize like how many kind of messages like this stuff I get. Like people asking me to sell you like scammy classes. Like I'm not going to do it. I give you information out here for free. Like it's education for free. And in my opinion, that's what YouTube should be. This idea that, people are selling you gold and other crap is just, it really bothers me. And that's why I talk the way that I do. And, I've been in the classroom for years, and I purposely chose not to go into this kind of stuff because it's not for me. I don't really want to do it. You Google, Shiba Inu, and it's like, look at all these kind of hucksters out there pitching you whatever stupid things going on with, coins with dogs on it. That's a real thing. And, I come from a generation, I'm different, and when people say, oh, Chris, you're just old and stupid, it's really funny. So in my generation, I'm Gen X. I grew up in a time to where like we were all about Pearl Jam and Nirvana. And I'm giving you an example of those two, because the idea is that we were against the man, against Ticketmaster, and this idea that if you, work with, the big institutions or whatever, that you're working for the man and you're a sellout kind of stuff. And I lived through 0809, and I remember the whole bank bailouts, and I was, supporting these people, this kind of stuff. So I actually left the country at this time. I was pretty pissed off at the whole thing. It was bad. The Great Recession was really bad. And I remember this stuff. And if you don't know, that basically people were protesting the bailouts for the big money. And I feel like we're kind of going that way again. And what's frustrating about me is I feel like the 99% of us, that means the vast majority of people, we should all be on the same team to fight corruption. But what happens is that there's a lot of people out there like your Peter Schiffs, your Meet Kevins, your Andrew Tates or whatever. They sort of use your anger and channel it into buy my course, bro, buy my gold company, bro. That's basically what it boils down to. So, it is what it is. And you guys can decide if you think I'm just making up a bunch of random nonsense or not. You can make that decision. But in my opinion, I try my best to inform you and say, yes, there is corruption in many parts of the world and at all levels. And frankly, a lot of people are just really, really greedy. And so, for you, what should you be doing with yourself, your money, stuff like that? You got to make up your own decisions. But I will say the key is, this is really important going forward. One of the most valuable skills is developing and building relationships with people who have your best interest at heart. That is a real thing. So once you find those people, hang out with those people. Do not hang out with people that are like constantly selling you gold and classes and this kind of crap. It's just like, it's ridiculous, right? And the problem is though, for a lot of people, you're in a vulnerable situation for any number of people, any number of reasons, and you get caught up in these kind of things. And it is what it is. And the other thing is too, is just educate yourself. Always, always, always be learning so that you have, job skills and you have things to fall back on to where something goes wrong, something like that. You always have value to provide another person to where they're essentially always going to give you money. Essentially, that's what a job is. They give you money to do something because you're providing a service for people, these kind of things. So I hope you understand my point of view on these kind of things, and I'm trying to help you guys out to understand what's going on in the world. So yes, a lot of crazy stuff is happening, and that's it. So thanks again for watching, everyone, and I'll catch you in the next video.